Hello and welcome to Knitting on the Float. My name is Tracy and I'm your host. I am coming to you from another gloriously sunny day in the Vancouver area. I went up to get the mail a few moments ago. It was 10 degrees Celsius. The sun is out. There are crocuses across the street. Spring finally feels like it has arrived. I'm hoping if you are in the Northern Hemisphere that spring is coming your way, if not already, very, very soon. And if you are in the Southern Hemisphere, I hope that you are getting your full fall knitting embracing happening, because I know fall in the Northern Hemisphere is always a very exciting time, and I imagine it's the same in the Southern Hemisphere as well, especially when it is crafting season and the idea of creating beautiful, warm, fibery sweaters is always such a lovely thing. This week, I have kind of gone a little bit off the garden path, heading into spring, going into the wildflower fields perhaps, and where I thought I should focus on one particular thing, I just wasn't feeling it, so I diverged a little bit. And one of my favorite poems is Robert Frost's The Road Not Taken, and that has made all the difference. So a few things, including a couple of finished objects, to share with you this week. But before I get to those things, let me tell you where you can find me. I am Tracy RR on Ravelry, and I am at Knitting on the Float on Instagram. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. This is a podcast where most of the time I talk about knitting, and this week it is definitely all about the knitting. I am called Knitting on the Float because we live on a float home in the greater Vancouver area, and basically we live right on the Fraser River, and we are going up and down with the tides because the Fraser River goes out into the Pacific Ocean. So knitting on the float, it's not about me doing color work, it's more about me living on a float home. So welcome. And if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. I always love having you come and visit with me on the comfy couch, on the float home, and of course this week is no different. I have some fun things to share with you, as always, and of course some lovely tea. So welcome back. I know you have your requisite cup of whatever, and as the weather is warming up or cooling down, perhaps you're on a cold beverage kick right now. Me, I am on a hot beverage kick, so I'll talk about that in a moment. But I know you've got your requisite beverage. You have your wonderful project bag, because it is filled with that project that you are going to work on while we sit, visit, and chatter for a while. And you are ready to just sit down, take some time for yourself, and see what crafting I have to share with you this week. So welcome back. It is now time for tea time, and I mentioned I'm drinking something hot, and I am drinking out of my mine mug, and there's a little seagull at the bottom. There are a couple of seagulls here, and they are fighting to drink what is inside here. There's a lemon in here. I'm drinking something I usually drink a lot more of during the winter, but I really haven't this year. I guess I haven't felt the need. I haven't been under the weather very much this autumn winter season, so which is a good thing. But I am drinking the Tea Palace Rooibos Eucalyptus Zest. I'm not sure if they carry this anymore. This is definitely older stock, and yes, I know tea expires, but it doesn't smell like it. This is one of the most wonderful teas I have ever had, and it is simply divine. I will put the lid on so I don't dump it all over the place while I share with you. I think there's only 3 ingredients in this. So it's a rooibos tea, and rooibos is a very fine loose tea, and it's those little tiny red leaves. And so let me read this to you. Tea Palace is dedicated to providing you with the finest quality loose leaf teas and infusions in the world. And I have to say, this one, wonderful. Rooibos, or red bush, is grown in South Africa, naturally caffeine free. It contains high levels of antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals, as well as anti-aging properties. Why have I not been drinking this more this winter? I don't know. Rooibos eucalyptus zest is made with the finest rooibos blended with eucalyptus leaves, orange peels, and orange blossoms. It has a zesty, refreshing taste and is packed with vitamin C to help boost the immune system. To enjoy, place 1 dessert spoon per cup into an infuser, filter, or teapot. Add freshly boiled water, infuse for 3 to 4 minutes, and it is time for tea. So, it smells so good. I wish you could smell it. Anyway, that is what I am drinking today. I have popped a lemon in. Sometimes I put honey in as well, but today just a lemon and some rooibos eucalyptus zest. And I am ready to drink in those antioxidants and all those vitamins. And I think today we will cheer to being happy, healthy, and definitely very crafty. Cheers to that. This tea is so delicious. I don't know why I haven't been drinking more of it this year. I stocked up a couple of years ago. They had big 2-kilogram bags on sale, and I may have bought a couple. So yeah, they're probably expired, but honestly, does tea really expire? Yes, Tracy, it does. But you know what? If you keep it in the Ziploc bags, it should be okay. And that still tastes absolutely wonderful. I've also shared a little bit with some of my neighbors, so I haven't kept all of the tea for myself. I have been sharing. This week, I have 4 projects on the couch to share with you. And I mentioned I diverged a little bit. I was feeling like I needed a bit of a palate cleanser. I had been working on the Morticia sleeves, and I was kind of feeling that real Sleeve Island experience, and I decided that I needed to change things up a little bit. So I will start off with a project that I shared with you last week. Actually, these are 2 projects. This is 2 projects in here. And this is my lovely Plum Blossom nest bag from Birdleg Bags. And it has just the most lovely floral patterns. Now I think I remember the names of these yarns. Not 100% sure. I usually keep the ball bands, but for these ones, for some strange reason, I have lost them, thrown them out. I don't know. This one here is a lovely Nora George yarns, and the 3 yarns I'm going to share with you are a BFL cashmere and silk blend. And this, I believe, is April Showers. So it's just a lovely soft blue. And as we are going into April, it makes sense to knit with that. This one is Pollen, and where the other 2 I wasn't 100% sure of the names, this one I know for sure because I had used it in another project and I was good and did record the name. So this is Pollen, again, Nora George yarns, and I don't normally love yellow, but this one is a happy yellow, so I'll go with it. And this one I just couldn't last week remember for the life of me. And I was watching Jules' latest journal. Jules is So Sweet Violet. And I think she was holding this double with the same yarn in raspberry. And I do have some raspberry as well. And I think this is called French lace. So when or maybe I even came across it on the Nora George website. I'm not 100% sure where I kind of pulled that name, but I do believe this is French lace. So a beautiful, soft pink. And I also used some hedgerow yarns, and this is Surrey silk, and this is a lovely Surrey silk cloud base, a lace weight, fluffy, and always fun to hold something double with your yarns. So the first project that I finished was done just in the French lace, and that was this hat that I started many years ago, and I just cast on 144 stitches, so 144, and I did a very narrow brim and twisted rib, and then I just knit and knit and knit till I thought, okay, I can start doing my decreases now. And I find hats the most challenging thing to knit because my head is apparently small. It doesn't always feel like it, but when I wear the motorcycle helmet, I have to wear Nathaniel's child size helmet, and extra small motorcycle helmets fit me. So hats are always a little bit funny, and once I block them, they can fit perfectly when they're unblocked, and then as soon as I block them, they're just too big. So I was a little bit afraid to block this one, but I think it fits me fairly nicely. I decided to just do a 4-stripe decrease in the crown, and I really like how it's turned out. Now it's such a delicate pink that it's hard to capture, but what I did was, I mentioned that there were 144 stitches. I divided that by 4, so I believe that was 36, and I put a marker at each 36, and 2 stitches before, 2 stitches after, I did an SSK or a knit 2 together, depending on which side it was, and I just decreased right to the crown. I did think about putting a pom-pom on, but I think I'm not going to. And I wanted just a spring hat that wasn't too heavy, that if it was a little bit chilly, I could pop on my head, and it's just a nice lightweight. It fits over my ears, so it goes right to my eyebrows. So I'm actually quite happy with how it is. And then I've got that lovely crown detailing. I really love that. And when Nathaniel was a baby, he had this hat that I had purchased, and I believe it had a similar detailing. I think it was all reverse stockinette. It was a gorgeous hat with stripes, and I think when I started this, I was trying to do something very similar, and I'll have to pull that out and take a look. I think it's in the cedar chest upstairs. It was one of the hats I kept because I loved it so much, but I do believe I've gone with a similar crown. Anyway, that is one finished object, my lovely French lace pink hat. And I don't know, I'm reverting back to winter. My path had me diverging back to winter. I also finished a snuggle down cowl. So we're going full on winter. And the yarns that I shared with you before, as I mentioned, French lace, but then I brought these colors in along with the Surrey silk, and I made a beautiful snuggle down cowl. And this is a pattern by Jules Hill, who is So Sweet Violet. I was mentioning her podcast the other when I was talking about the hat, and she had used, as I said, I think French lace held double with raspberry, and I have done a little bit of a modification to the snuggle down cowl. Instead of having 7 repeats, I decided just to do 6 repeats, so then I could have 2 in the pollen, 2 in the April showers, and then 2 in the French lace. I did think about having 3 repeats in the blue and then just 2 on each end, but I just decided to make it like a Neapolitan type of cowl. And I think even with removing one of the repeats, it's big enough. I look like I'm all cozied up for winter. I look like I should be going into winter rather than coming out of it, but that's okay. That's okay. I will be definitely set for any of those days that we get a little bit of a chill, or I will be set for next winter, whichever comes first. Anyway, I have finished this lovely cowl. This is my second snuggle down cowl. It's just a lovely pattern to knit. I now have Surrey silk on my face. I'm getting a little hot. Too warm. Anyway, I am not complaining about it being too warm. Anyway, these are my lovely finished objects that I just needed a change of scenery, a change of something on the needles, and it was fun to finally finish this after many years of having it on my needles, clearing off a set of needles, and then just having a fun cast on that took me less than a week to do. I put it down on the blocking mat to block it the other day, and Tasha, who came up for a little visit last week on the podcast, decided she thought it would be a good idea to lie down on my snuggle down cowl. Snuggle down cowl is not for cats to snuggle down on, it's for Tracy and other wonderful knitters to snuggle in when they have created such a beauty. Anyway, a wonderful, wonderful pattern, very simple, a great way to use some yarn. I still have to weigh this, see how much I have left, how much I used. I still have these. I could probably make another snuggle down cowl if I wanted to. I think if I did another one in these colors, instead of doing 3 color blocks, I think I would stripe it. I would do, something like yellow, pink, blue, yellow, pink, blue, yellow, pink, blue. That would be 9 instead of 6. So maybe just yellow, pink, blue, yellow, pink, blue. Anyway, I think I might make another one, even if it is maybe as a gift, or we shall see. It'll be nice to use up the rest of this yarn, because that is what I'm trying to do, is use up the lovely yarns that I have and create wonderful, wonderful things. And give my face a wipe, because wonderful, but sticky on your face sometimes. Okay, I have 2 more projects to talk about this week, and one is living in this gorgeous unicorn bag, and this bag was gifted to me when I went to England this past November, December, and my lovely friend Lorraine made this wonderful bag for me. Look at this cute little spot to tuck things. I can't share too much of what's inside because there is a fantastic test knit in here. I am going to share the yarn. Anyway, this lovely, lovely bag that Lorraine made, and isn't that just adorable? So, what am I knitting with? I am knitting with, so Lorraine gave this to me when I was in England, and I was also gifted this gorgeous yarn combo. And it was a Sherry Iris sock set, and it is called A Quilt to Dream Under. And when I share the color, you will know why I absolutely love this. It came with a mini, and that mini is this soft, gorgeous pink, a little bit different from this one. This one's more peachy, and this one's got more blue undertones. Definitely gorgeous. So I'm using this, and carefully, without giving too much away, I am using this gorgeous main skein. So this is 100 grams of A Quilt to Dream Under, and it has green and pink. It's definitely got highlights of yellow too, but those green and pink bits definitely make it more pink and green for me than yellow. Anyway, that with the pink mini is knitting up beautifully. So I was asked if I would do this test knit, and as soon as I saw the pattern, yes please. The next day, not only did I choose out my yarn, I wound it up and I cast on, and I made some pretty good progress. But then I was feeling guilty about the other things, so I've only done a tiny bit more than I had done previously. I'm hoping that maybe you will see what is in this bag in April. I can cross fingers. We will see when I get to share it, but in the meantime, I am loving using Lorraine's beautiful unicorn bag, and I am absolutely loving using these yarns. So I will share what I can when I can, and in the meantime, a secret project. I did think about using Nancy, but no, I knew for this project, this yarn, this bag, and this pattern are perfect together. Anyway, that is something that I diverged again with, and I think I just needed that palette cleanser of some winter things and that test knit just to sort of give me something other than Sleeve Island to work on. But I was a good knitter this week, and I did work on my Morticia sweater. The Morticia is a pattern by Andy Satterland, and unfortunately, Andy is no longer selling her designs, and oh, it's too bad because they are gorgeous, gorgeous designs. Last week, I popped a progress keeper on. I popped this little unicorn. So look, it's all about the unicorns this week. Unicorn here, unicorn there, and let us share. Let's see which way is the right way. I believe it's this way. So neckline, body. I have finished a sleeve. So we left off there last week, and I finished that gorgeous, gorgeous sleeve. I have tried it on when I was sleeveless on the one side and with this sleeve, and oh my gosh, they are just billowy, puffy sleeves. Anne of Green Gables would truly be jealous for these puffed sleeves because they are amazing. I have finished the sleeve cap on this one, and I am making sure I'm not losing stitches. Working away on sleeve number 2. I'm about a quarter of the way done through this sleeve. So if I hold the sleeves together, and that's sort of where I am, I still have about this much sleeve left to do. Now, as you can tell, it is very, very wide over here, and then it narrows right down. But that is part of the magic of this sweater. I was thinking this sleeve was going to be super, super long and I'd be having to pull it up. It actually, the cuff probably starts right where my bracelet is laying now, and then the billowing starts here. So once it's blocked, because this is an alpaca blend, I think it is going to stretch out a little bit. And I guess I should share my yarns. Now, I am using Nora George yarns, and this is Cloud Decay in the Sweet Pea colorway, and this is alpaca, silk, and cashmere, and it is, oh, so soft, so squishy, and the color is, oh, I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Now, when I cast on sleeve 1, I was really hoping that I would be able to knit the entire sleeve with one skein, because I didn't want to have to alternate, especially in that mesh section. And I was getting a little bit nervous as I continued, but I am happy to say I was able to pull off that whole skein and sleeve, or that whole sleeve with one skein. And I had 1, 2, 2.5 arm lengths left of the skein that I used for sleeve 1. So I have wound up this skein and crossing fingers that I am able to have leftovers and not have to throw in a little bit more. So crossing fingers, you'd think it should be able to, unless my gauge goes completely wonky or if I accidentally add in an extra round or something like that, I should be okay. And knock on wood, the knitting table is close enough to wood byproduct. Anyway, that will leave me with 1 more of these. Maybe I'll make a lovely hat to match my sweater. Anyway, I am hoping, crossing fingers again, that next week I may have a completed object to share with you. A beautiful Morticia in pink, ready for spring. Oh, this sweet pea colorway is just so lovely. And I think when this is blocked, it is going to be completely magical. Anyway, that is where I was. Let us pop this unicorn off. I will put the unicorn where I am now, and we'll see how I go. If I finish off the sweater, I will maybe take the unicorn off because I'll want to block it and wear it. And then of course, fix all the fun little labels on. I will put a label on the back of the neck, and I will also put a label on the bottom left-hand side, just because I like to do that to my sweaters. Anyway, that is my lovely Morticia. And I am happy to say that even though I diverged with 3 other projects, I did get a little bit done on this sweater, and that makes me feel really, really good. It's now time for Bits and Bobs, and this is my segment where I talk about anything and everything not necessarily knitting related. There are no brown paper packages on the podcast this week. And in fact, our mailbox, we haven't been able to access it for a couple of weeks. Not that we haven't been able to access it. In fact, the mailman hadn't been able to put mail in our mailbox because his key had broken. So I think they fixed it because yesterday we finally had some mail. All those tax things that I need, but we seem to be okay without it for a little bit. There are no wonderful brown paper packages, and that's okay. I don't expect that there will be any in the next little while. So maybe in the next few weeks, instead of doing brown paper packages, I will revisit some lovely stash, or I will do some stash diving or something like that. But this week, we're just going straight into Bits and Bobs. It is spring break here in British Columbia, and in Ontario, the kids only had 1 week of March break or spring break, and here we get 2 weeks. So Nathaniel is just finishing up the first week of spring break, and then he will have next week off as well. The time change just happened last weekend, so it's really nice, I find, when the March break and the time change coincide, because A, keeps you off the road for the most part, because this is of course the week that most accidents happen because people are tired and the sun comes in at different angles. Just lots of different factors. I hope at some point we stop the spring forward, fall back time changes, because I always found it really, really exhausting. Not as much in the fall as in the spring. And I don't know if you remember way back when it used to happen in April, and then they changed it to March to give us even more daylight savings. But I remember being in high school in April, and we'd have the clock spring forward, and that whole week I just found so tiring and so hard to adjust to, and my sleep schedule was off. I loved the fact that it was later in the day, and I love that. But that week of adjusting, it took a wallop on me when I was in my teens, and it still knocks me out. But I am happy when it coincides with the March break, because it's a little less stressful on this old body of mine. I know it's not that old, but sometimes with the time change, that time change makes me feel it. Anyway, time change is done. The days are getting longer. It is darker later, and that's always a fantastic thing. And Nathaniel's having a nice, restful March break. I'm hoping maybe next week to get out to a local park and maybe see some blossoms. And I'm hoping they'll be coming out soon. I know last year, I'll have to look at my podcast schedule and see when the blossoms were happening. I know I captured a little bit last year, so that'll give me a good idea of when the blossoms come out in Vancouver. In Toronto, it was usually late April, early May. Here, it is definitely a little bit earlier, but I am looking forward to seeing some blossoms, especially some cherry blossoms. There are lots in the Vancouver area in the spring. I did find some beautiful crocuses, and I am going to share that with you because I do have a little bit of footage off the float this week. The first video I'm going to share with you was one of my midnight captures, and one of the barges, one of the tugboats was pulling one of the barges filled with the laminate wood. Actually, it's a double barge, and I heard the siren go off for the swing bridge, so I popped out of bed to see what was happening and could see that the tugboat was slowing down, and I looked over at the swing bridge and it wasn't opening, even though the siren had gone off quite a bit before. And this happened once before, and they had to then back up. So I have footage of them backing up that huge barge filled with laminate and turning it around to go back down and around so they could bring it to the other side of the swing bridge. No idea why the swing bridge didn't open, but I have that footage, and I also have some beautiful blossoms with some bees from across the street, and I will put both of those videos right here. I've seen this happen once before in the middle of the night, which it currently is now. It's just past midnight, and what's happening is the swing bridge down here isn't opening. I heard the horn go off, but the tugboat here has two barges filled with a veneer, and because the bridge isn't opening, the tugboat is having to push these barges backwards, back from whence it came, and it's actually going to turn around so that it'll have to go around the island, which is just across the river from us. But I'm not sure why the bridge won't open. I did hear the horn go off, or the siren go off, but didn't seem to be working. So he's gotten a little bit farther away from the houses, thankfully, but he's just pushing, going backwards. I'm not sure why they don't just unhook and then pull the other end. But I don't know, I don't think I would want to be having to steer this tugboat as it is trying to go back from the other side. So, as I mentioned, it's just past midnight. So I hope they've had a nice dose of caffeine to help them get through this shift, because it's probably turned into a lot more than they were expecting it to be. Anyway, there is a wide angle. And the last time I saw him, well, I don't know if it was him, but someone else do this, they had to go way over where the logs were, and they kind of backed it up and then did kind of like a three-point turn like you'd do when you're driving. So it's really quite amazing, really, to think that he's doing this without backup cameras, and with all the houses along here, he's got to definitely be very, very careful. And that is a huge load, 2 barges filled with laminate. Anyway, it looks like he's doing fairly well right now. Today, it's now March 11th, so it is now early Saturday morning. They often bring the barges through anywhere between 11 p.m. and the wee hours in the morning, and they bring it to the other side of the bridge and they unload it and take it across the way where all those lights are in the factories. But I guess having the swing bridge not working really does add a lot more to their journey. Anyway, he looks like he's slowly figuring it out. Not sure where he's going to pull back to and then turn around, but I'm not sure how long this will take either. It is getting a little bit chilly, so I think what I will do, I'll just zoom in a little bit for a moment and continue just to see what he's up to. Way down there. I wonder how many 4-letter words they've been saying tonight as they've been dealing with the bridge being out. Anyway, looks like he's making good progress. He's going to get past where the houses are, and then he'll probably do a bit of a U-ey. I am going to go in now because it is a bit chilly and it is getting a little bit farther back, so a little difficult to see in the dark as well. Anyway, that is what is happening on the river this late evening, early morning. They were sitting there for quite some time, but now the tugboat is just turning the barge around. It's really difficult to see. You can see maybe a green light, and it's just moving forward a little bit, and the barge is behind it, so it's doing its U-turn now. I'm not sure how much slack it's got between the tugboat and the barge, but I can see that the barge is slowly being turned around. Again, not sure how well you can see it, but pretty good U-turn though. Anyway, he will turn right around and pull that extra long barge back down the river, and then I imagine they will go behind the island across the way and around to the other side of the swing bridge. Point back that way. If you can see that green light, that is, I think, part of the tugboat. And then there's red lights on the barge. Anyway, I am going to head back in and we'll see what else happens on the river this week. Spring is springing, and I'm going to take you on a little walk down this garden path, and we'll just walk a little bit forward past the mailboxes, and I want to share with you that it looks like spring is here. All down this pathway are lovely little purple crocuses. And who does not love a purple spring crocus, whether it's light purple or dark purple, or whether they are white or yellow? Crocuses definitely mean spring is on its way. And just down this pathway, oh, look at this one here. There is a little bee that has discovered that there is some nectar in those crocuses. So not only, oh, there's a few bees. There's this one here, and then this one right here, and little bees. So happy spring. Honey will be being made soon. You can hear the birds in the background. And yes, who doesn't love some spring flowers? Isn't it so lovely to see crocuses and bees? Bees can only mean one thing: honey, honey for tea. Definitely spring is on the way. Other things happening around the float house. Last week I shared with you that it was Greg's birthday and I made a wonderful, wonderful cake. I will put a picture of the finished product up here, and it was delicious. I decorated the cake with the buttercream that was called for in the RecipeTinEats.com recipe. And then I put lovely little Cadbury mini eggs on the top. In Canada, we do not have speckles on our mini eggs, and I think that is a total shame. Cutbacks. Anyway, so I made this beautiful cake, and it was delicious. Some of our neighbors came over, and I didn't hear any complaints. It's cake. Would anyone really complain? It was, oh, so good. I was a little disappointed the next morning when I got up to get a little bit of that last piece, only to discover that the birthday boy had eaten it. And that made me sad. But It was his cake, so he got to enjoy it, and it was very, very lovely. We didn't tell our neighbors that it was Greg's birthday, so when they arrived, we surprised them and said, we've invited you over because it's Greg's birthday. We didn't want to make them feel awkward, so it was just nicer to surprise everybody with, let's enjoy some tea and cake, and we had a lovely rendition of Happy Birthday to Greg, and that was just a nice, calm evening with lots of sugar and lots of tea. It was lovely. Other things happening, Isaac has been working on recertifying all of his swimming awards. So last spring, last May, he was able to recertify his National Lifeguard Service. So that one's valid for another year, but we've been really having a hard time finding recertification courses for the swim instructor courses because Red Cross used to be the main younger swimming group that you would go with. So they did, when I was young, it was blue, and then they changed it to levels. Hello, Scout. And it was, Red Cross discontinued working on the swimming courses a little over a year ago, and the Life Saving Society has now taken over teaching the younger ones as well as the award courses. So we had gotten Isaac signed up for a recertification for the upper levels, and thankfully, because his original course was taken in Ontario, we were able to use that, his NLS, and then another online life-saving course that he had taken to recertify the younger levels. So he is now fully up to date. Although in July, his Red Cross First Aid and CPR and AED course expires, so he is signed up to take a first aid course tomorrow, and then he will be fully recertified in everything, and crossing fingers, he gets a job in one of the Vancouver boroughs where he can teach swimming and lifeguard this summer, because it's always such a great job, and I think he'll really enjoy that. So he did it in Disney last year, just the lifeguarding portion. They don't teach swimming in Disney. And he did have a nice time lifeguarding there. But where we live, there are only outdoor pools. So it's a little bit more of a challenge in our area. There are some other boroughs in the Vancouver area that do have indoor pools, but it's kind of funny because we kept hearing about lifeguard shortages, but when he put applications in, they weren't hiring at that point. So hopefully for the summer, he will be able to get a job, and they will open the outdoor pool here in mid to late April. So cross those fingers for us, please. Anyway, I am thinking if there's anything else for Bits and Bobs, and I am thinking, no, we've got a little bit of footage. Who knows what will happen in the week ahead? Maybe some more blossoms, maybe some daffodils, maybe some cherry blossoms. I hope they come out soon. Anyway, I will finish off Bits and Bobs right here, I guess. Thank you so much for joining me on Knitting on the Float this week. I hope that you have had a chance to enjoy your time with either maybe a project that is a bit of a palette cleanser, you know, a little bit of a divergent knitting, or maybe you, like me, are stuck on Sleeve Island and just trying to get through those round after round after round. You will get there, I promise you. You will get there. Or maybe you've got some secret knitting happening, maybe some gifts for somebody, or just, it's always fun to have some secret knitting. Whatever it is that you have been working on today, I hope that you have gotten some good progress done. I hope that you have been able to relax while we have visited, and I definitely hope that you have been enjoying your cup of kindness, whether hot, cold, whatever. And I am looking forward to seeing you next week when we visit again. Have the most wonderful week, and I will see you then. Bye. I'm not sure why, but usually at this time of the year, March, I am desperate for spring. I guess it's because most of my Marches have been spent in Toronto, and in Toronto, it's usually cold and there is snow. So whenever we would get to March break time around St. Patrick's Day, the snow would start to melt, or maybe just have melted. The days were starting to get a little bit warmer, and that real desperation looking for those crocuses popping through the snow was a real thing. So I'm not sure why this March, instead of dreaming of spring, I am knitting winter warmers. I don't know what it is. Anyway, whether, as I said earlier, whether it is to be prepared for a cold snap or to be prepared for next winter, I think I am golden.